From the city that friendliness built, Lebanon, Oregon, welcome to Pivot. My name is Michael Carragon and I am your host. On this podcast, you're going to hear from everyday heroes in our community that have genuine hearts to encourage others by sharing their uncurated stories of redemption and how they have leveraged victories and hardships to impact others. If you crave raw, authentic stories of resiliency, personal transformation, and the strength of community, Pivot is for you. Hello and welcome back to the Pivot Podcast. We are super excited that you're here with us today. My name is Michael and I have my trusted co-host there, Mr. Rafe.
Good to be back, guys.
Give him a better what's up than that.
Excited and ecstatic to be back.
Even on 2 hours sleep, right?
Even on 2 hours of sleep.
Okay.
We're still chugging along.
Future doctors right here. But our very special guest today, who we're so thankful for in this community of the city that friendliness built here in Lebanon, Oregon. This is my friend Rebecca, who is also the CEO and the president of the Lebanon Chamber of Commerce.
Yes, good morning.
How you doing?
I'm doing fabulous. How are you doing?
But how you really doing?
I'm really doing fabulous. Right. I feel terrific. I feel terrific. That's what you're supposed to say to yourself like 5 times a day. I feel terrific.
I've been saying I feel pretty and singing it, but it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, something's going on there.
I'm
not going to lie.
Well, that's one of the things we try to get here on Pivot is to be able to let the truth roll, even when it hurts, right? Except for when it pertains to me. But anyway, we're so thankful for you. We hope one of the things for this podcast is that it's a love letter to the city of Lebanon, that we are just so thankful, forever indebted. And you're at the top of our list. I know you don't want to hear that, but just the way you lead in this community, the opportunities you provide, and as a business owner. We would have never been able to navigate through COVID. So we want to say thank you as we get to hear your story. Just thank you up front for that.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It is my pleasure. I love Lebanon. Lebanon's my hometown. It's my heart. I grew up here, and it's very important to me that businesses like you guys thrive here. So yeah, I'm super happy to be here.
Yeah. What was like growing up here in Lebanon? You've seen a lot of changes.
Yeah.
Not that you're old.
Yeah, I don't appreciate that. My family moved to Lebanon. I'm a fifth generation Oregonian, but born in Salem. My family moved here in 1975, so I turned 6 here in Lebanon, and it was a cool little. I think we had 6,900, 7,200. I can't remember what our population was at the time, but a thriving little downtown. You know, you had the record shop, you had the 88-cent store, had, and I grew up just a few blocks from where we are right here. Mm-hmm. And in first grade back in my day, your parents didn't want you to be around, right? So, youngest of 7, they had spare kids in case something happened. So they just let us roam. And so I grew up just going downtown. I bet I shopped in the 88-cent store every day of my childhood. I just grew up on Commerce here in Lebanon. So it feels natural for me to be working here now.
Yeah. So in terms of like a life motto, or you sound like we heard what makes you tick, but
well, kind of. I mean, I wouldn't say I have a motto per se, but humor is very important to me. If I can't. I really laugh inappropriately all the time.
Can you do that for us?
No,
oh,
no,
man.
I don't mean like my actual laugh is inappropriate. I'm sure it's not very pleasant, but I mean like at a funeral, anytime you're not supposed to laugh or make a joke or say something socially awkward, that's going to be me, frankly. But I because I think you don't take yourself too seriously and you don't be a victim. I would say if I have a motto, it's to never consider yourself a victim. I listen to a lot of Brian Tracy, The Psychology of Achievement, and that's where that I am terrific. I feel terrific, and you say that until you believe it. But also, one of his other mantras is, "I am responsible. I am responsible for whenever you think about what gives you anxiety, your dad didn't love you, your whatever it was growing up, whatever it is that people make you angry, you just say, I am responsible, I am responsible, I am responsible, because you are ultimately responsible for the what you do with what happens to you. So, I mean, that's way deeper than I want to get into, but
That's what we
but
want here.
Yeah, no. I mean, well, what I'm curious about is these are excellent mantras that you lead your life by, but where in life did these begin to develop?
yeah, because I was plenty victim-y in my past. not gonna lie, but I had a job once. I was working at a radio station, and my boss said, "I'm gonna send you to this." It was a something in Portland. It was a series of development courses. No, it wasn't really courses. It was like it was called Masters of Excellence. And so I remember the first time I went, Brian Tracy, he's a guru of, he has the psychology of achievement. I went and I listened to him, and he was talking about things like this. And I remember at the time I bought one of those. Remember how cassettes used to come in those 8-packs that you would, you close up?
I would. He wouldn't.
I still have
I've
it.
seen them.
Yeah, I have one.
You even
I
have a
one.
Walkman. That's a whole other thing.
I do. So I bought that. I remember it was $79.95, and I remember putting it on a credit card because I did not have $79.95. But I thought, I really want to do this, and it struck a chord with me, and I played those, and I was selling radio at the time, so I'm just wandering all around the planet, desperate to sell a 30-second ad to somebody. And so I ended up listening to that over and over and over. And so he talks a lot about visualizations, and I'd never set a goal in my life, right? Like just like purposely set that out there. And so I remember one of the very first things that I did was I wanted to own a home, but I'd been through a really bad divorce, had terrible credit. I was never gonna I didn't visualize myself as the kind of person that could own a home, or that that was attractive, or I mean nothing positive did I visualize for myself. So I remember taking a picture of just a mobile home that was looked like a log cabin. I don't know if you've ever seen those, but I just thought, oh, that's just I could never own that. So I remember taking a picture and putting it on my refrigerator, and I would look at it every day. And I owned a home within a year of that.
Wow.
And that was
That's
it was
inspiring.
really powerful for me. Just the fact of putting that in front of my face, I think brings those things into your life. So I'm in the middle of kind of like a rediscovery of that, because I've kind of I did those kinds of things and said those kinds of things. It sounds really good to say I am responsible, and but I think if I would have continued and really worked that, I wouldn't be sitting here, because I'd be president of the United States or something ridiculous like that. I mean, I'd be way more important than I am. So
Well, it sounds like you're pretty important in this community. In the short time
Absolutely.
that I've been here, I've heard a lot. So that's one thing. And
like keep it to the nice stuff.
keep it to the nice stuff. Only on air we keep it to the nice
Right.
stuff. But it's interesting what you say, because this is something we talked about yesterday, Michael, where, speaking things into existence, right?
Yes.
Sometimes we tend to go the opposite direction, where, the negativity infiltrates our minds, and then, we speak it into existence.
Yes.
But it sounds like what you're doing is, you're taking that concept of positivity, but you're really speaking it into existence with, the photographs on your fridge, and really bringing that to
100%.
bear.
And so, our recent ice storm, I was at the house, and I watched The Secret. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen
But
it.
it really kind of talks about, Brian Tracy calls that the superconscious capability. And so I watched this show called The Secret about people and how they kind of tap into and visualize, and how you draw things into your life. And so that's just been, a couple weeks ago. And so I've started meditating in the mornings, and my visualization, I think it's different for everybody, but I visualize, like a lava lamp.
Sure.
So
I know. Do
I
you?
think there's
I do.
I think there's energy, there's matter and antimatter in balance in the universe, and there's I think there's good and evil energy. There's there's opposing energy in the universe, and this is going to sound really super hippy dippy, what I'm going to tell you, but I visualize when I'm meditating that the world is a black glob of kind of negative, and that we are all these little points of light inside. We're trapped inside this glob, and that outside this glob there's light. And that when you say you're a writer and you've heard of people they just tap into something and that it just flows to them. They write a song or they write a book, something
Kind of like downloaded.
Yeah, you're just like, it's like, that's not even coming from me. I'm just channeling that from somewhere. And I believe that's what that is. So I've started trying to manipulate myself in this negative blob that I feel like I'm living in, and I try to push it out away from me, and I try to be a little bit brighter, and I try to then I try to tap in, I try to visualize that I'm tapping in to a source of light, and that I'm doing that. So then that led me to just this last weekend doing a vision board. I've never done a vision board, which is basically like putting that
Log cabin.
That cabin on my refrigerator, but on steroids, right? And I put things on. I put things on there I can never afford. I want an outdoor kitchen. I want a lot of things, like if just in my ideal life. So now, since I made that, every morning I've been like, when I get into my meditative state, which just sounds silly, but then I try to walk through my front door and picture my fireplace that I really want on my couch. And then I go out the back door and I see my outdoor kitchen, and I just kind of start walking through things and going, oh man, this feels great. I love having all this stuff. So I don't know, but we can talk a year from now and you can be like, hey, loser, none of that.
That's not my words. That's not my words at all.
That'll be my words.
No, as people in process here, that's sort of our heart here too, is being able to we're working towards things, right? We're being transformed. Yeah. Those ideas, you made so many good points about the visualization. Rafael also talked about, self-talk and how much that has power in it to be able to reorient our thinking to truth and to be in relationship, even if it's just a few people, with people that are truth tellers, people that can point us to the truth and who we are and support us in moving towards those goals. And we find that essential. And that's another outworking of what we're hoping for this podcast, is to be able to, for people to really see the value, maybe they're not in Lebanon, but somewhere else listening, hopefully, that they want to get out and surround themselves with people who, they can build trust relationships and have people that can encourage them when needed, support them when needed, remind them who they truly are, not what they're feeling, not what this life situation is saying right now, not what the past has dictated about them. So you really hit on that.
Well, you also hit on something else that I find interesting, just in this, picture that you painted for us, and how you visualize the world as this dark, bulbous, globular mass, and we're each points of light. And what you just said, Michael, where, coming together and bringing people together, what I'm imagining and kind of thinking about, Rebecca, is these points of light, which represent each of us and the good that we have, in addition to expanding, just like you have with yourself, and expanding the light within. How do we also connect the different points of light together?
Yes. So the other thing that I've been trying to do is, and this is kind of silly too, but I have a few key people in my life, and so my visualization as I'm tapping is, then I feel like I have enough for today or for now, whatever. And then I channel that to other people. And again, it's just a feeling of an energy. And this is really just something I've started doing in the last couple weeks since the ice. But I really feel like the world has an energy to it. You feel an energy, and I feel like you can give that energy. I'm just trying to be purposeful about sharing light with a few people. But going back to what you said of genuine people, I have very few people that are. I know a lot of people, especially around here, but there's not a lot of people who are in what I would consider my inner circle, because I'm a little extra. I'm a little, I'm a bit much to handle. And so, and I know that. And so I try not to just, I am myself, my genuine self to other people, but I do guard a little bit I do hold a little bit back so that to not overwhelm.
Yeah. And I mean, with time constraints, and we also talk about relationships a lot too, and some of the ingredients that it takes, grace, truth, time to be able to build those things. So even if it's just a few, I mean, those are the diamonds in the rough, so to speak. So we get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that, you're putting it out there. I know the inside track again here about seeing you in motion and your impact on this community. Can you tell us just maybe some stories that you would see the impact directly related on others or parts of the community that as a result of you living out your light, so to speak, and putting your energy out there? I know you hate to talk about yourself. I get it.
I do, because I just feel like that negates everything you do. I feel like if you do something for somebody and you have to tell what you do for somebody, that negates all of the positive energy that you just did. So I really do try not to.
I understand.
To advertise anything nice, besides the fact that I really like that people have low expectations of me. That is so nice, because then I don't put out a lot of emotional energy in a lot of relationships, and then people don't expect it of me. So if you get it, then that's just a little pleasant surprise, but you don't expect it. So I don't have to perform per se. But I would say if I had to say, I thought of when I took this position. So it was a very dear friend of mine who had the position leading the Chamber of Commerce, and she passed away. And that was really hard for Lebanon. And I really felt sorry for anybody who was going to take her place, because she had huge shoes to fill.
That's tough.
Honest to God, and I don't say this like it's not humble. She was so much better at this position than I think I could ever aspire to be. It's just she had natural skills. My skills lie in like reading people, relating to people. I think people are sometimes magnetically attracted to me, or repelled, both. I mean, honest to God. But I affect people. No matter what you think of me, you'll be like, that chick, what just happened to me, right? Like that was something. But she had a really solid skill set. She was really great. But when I think something like 64 people applied for this position, and when they were getting ready, when I was like down to the final 3, like, oh my God, they're gonna hire me. What am I gonna do? I've been working at a credit union for 23 years. Yeah, kind of. Like, God, what am I doing? This is not.
I feel bad for the person that's going to be in that position.
Yes, and now I feel bad for me. So it's just sometimes that happens. And but almost immediately after I was hired, we had the pandemic. So you alluded to the fact that was when you guys came to town, that's right? Mm-hmm. So your first knowledge of me was that I was helpful to you. So that's not everybody's first experience with me. So I think that helped to form a better opinion of me than probably I deserve. But had I not been really established here before, I mean, I grew up here. I joined the Lebanon Chamber in 1992. Wow. I know our county commissioners. I had been on city council. The leadership in our community, I was already really connected with. And I think had that not been the case, there would have been a lot of businesses that would have been adversely affected worse than they were during the pandemic, because I was able to make connections that brought resources to our businesses. And so I guess that would be my one strength, I would say.
Appreciate you sharing that, and your impact on the community has been far and wide. I wanted to kind of go back a little bit more before you shared about, just some things and people that have shaped you into who you are today. But I know that for you, there was a pivotal trip in your life that you took at one point.
Yes.
And how does that relate to today, or how you flow?
Yes. I always tell people that I used to be nice, and not very many people believe that because
You didn't go to New York, did you?
I,
No, just
yeah,
kidding.
I
I
did
could
go
say
to
that.
New York.
I could say that.
So I grew up. I grew up Catholic. But when I was in middle school, I started going to a different church with a friend of mine. I mean, I was very, I want to say religious. I was very religious, and very. I was a lot nicer. But when I graduated high school, then I went to Venezuela for a year, and that changed everything. I had to grow up really fast in Venezuela. I had to make some really stupid decisions there, but in the end, I came home. Well, I mean, I came home drinking and smoking, so my family didn't even know who I was. But because I left here Becky, and I was very nice. And down there, Becky wasn't even a name. They were like Becky. They couldn't say Becky, so I said Rebecca. So my sister Mary always says she left as Becky and she came back as Rebecca. And that is true. That is
That's
true.
awesome.
That is true. So that I had to learn that I could take care of myself, but that I was going to need to be a little crustier than I was. And so at my visualization at that time was that I kind of created a protective shell. I think my humor is part of my protective shell. But genuinely, I'm just kind of a crusty person. I'm thick-skinned, some people would say. That was why I was able to be a politician, city council for 15 years in Lebanon. So I'm thick-skinned, but I like to say crusty. So yeah, it was tough. That was a tough year. I had a horrible host family. I wasn't the ideal host student, and I learned to escape out in the discotheques with my friends.
What part of Venezuela were you in?
San Cristobal,
Okay.
up in the Andes,
Wow.
almost to Colombia.
Wow. That is, and you spent 1 year there.
I spent a year.
It's so interesting to me to hear how there's just such a major character shift in who you are within that year. And do you ever think back to that time? And if you had a time machine and you go back, what would you tell Rebecca?
Rebecca.
Or
What I tell? It's what I would tell Becky.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would tell her, because I'm not sure that I would change what I did, good and bad, because it sharpened me. I think I needed to be honed and sharpened. I think I grew up I wouldn't say soft, because I had I think we all have our tough childhoods in our own way. But I did, everything happened kind of for a reason in hindsight. So I think I would just look back at her and feel sorry for her and say, I'm sorry, honey, but you're going to have to go through this. You're going to have to sleep with that guy again.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to.
Well, what's interesting to me, hearing your story and just kind of this pivotal shift that you had in Venezuela, fast forward to when you were in charge and you had the reins in COVID. And I know you said that you can never fill the shoes of your predecessor, but what it makes me think is each of us have our unique capacities and capabilities. And what I'm thinking is that time in Venezuela is probably why the city of Lebanon had such a good leader to steer them through a tumultuous time and get them and the businesses that they had what they needed. Because I can tell you, when I drove in here just a few months ago, I've seen a lot of towns like Lebanon, small downtowns, which have been completely culled by the pandemic. And the fact that wasn't the case when I was driving through with my mom, the first thing that struck us was, wow, these businesses are still up and running. And I think, hearing your story, the transition from Becky to Rebecca may be the reason why Lebanon had such a good leader.
That makes me sound far more important than I am, because I would not say, I would say I was part of that, but I wasn't. That I think is an overcharacterization that makes me sound too much. But I think Lebanon has a lot of other leaders that are like me, and Lebanon just has an energy and a passion that is, I think, unique to Lebanon. And people say that a lot, and it's really hard to to know and feel in your heart until you're here.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Because like you said, if you're driving through here, and especially both of us, we come from big cities, so you're like in here like, wow, I don't know about this, right?
Yeah.
But landing here, this has been by far the most favorite place I've ever lived in my life, and the people and the community here has just been.
Yeah.
But you would never know that. You would never know unless you spend time and dwelling in this place here.
Yeah. Until you show up and open a business, and all of a sudden people are trying to help you out when times get tough.
Yeah, I remember there was one day in my elderly age that I can remember back to that I was standing at the counter, and this very nice, beautiful woman came in with a basket, and she welcomed me to the Chamber of Commerce, and then not only this, you're not gonna. Then you're gonna remember, and very intelligent, by the way, but could have sworn she was from New York just with the way she presented.
She has a little attitude.
Yeah, but then she actually. You want to tell the story about how you hired your customer service manager? This is good, folks. This is good.
Well, I mean, I saw on, I think it was on Facebook.
Here he is.
Oh, little Oswald. I during the pandemic in May of that year, and again, everything kind of happens for a reason.
Hard things, right?
But I lost my Westie, and so who was Oliver, which is terrible because I call Oswald Oliver all the time. But I saw that you guys had a Westie, and I'm like, man, these are my people. I'm gonna have to, what's the temperament of the dog? I think we're gonna need an office dog, and he's just mellow guy, right? And so I interviewed him, and we hired him. So he's got his own business cards, as you well know.
Yes.
Does he still have some at Ozella?
We give them to people that are usually flying internationally, and they get them past TSA, and customs. So we got to get some new ones.
He's pretty important. So when people ask, hey, does this dog work here? I say yes. He's our customer relations manager. He is managing you right now. When you're petting him, he's actually managing you, and.
I love it.
Yeah. So
It's a big job.
it is a big
Well,
job.
we talked about the influence on the community and people, but also on animals. I mean, it's like almost kind of like a Dr. Doolittle.
So all living beings.
Yeah. Look, he doesn't even come and sit like that in front of me, right? This isn't stage. We don't have an animal trainer here at Pivot. I guess I have two final questions for you if you have a couple more minutes. We took you from your whole day of work. Number one, being a part of Lebanon, seeing it from the genesis, seeing where it's gone, navigating through those adverse waters. What do you see next for just like Lebanon? What's your hope for where we're headed?
I when I talk to other like chamber people, or when I was on city council, statewide people would ask me, what is going on in Lebanon? What do you like? We have some magic Kool-Aid we're drinking.
It's true.
And it is kind of true. And so I think Lebanon, having diversified into kind of an education community with the medical college here, and that expanding, we had LBCC expand and bring their advanced transportation and their medical programs here. That insulates us from Lebanon was a timber town, and as most timber towns are, there used to be something like there was like 40 mills in Lynn County at one point, and I think we now have 3. So it's a significant drop, the timber industry. And so Lebanon early on diversified, or wouldn't say early on, but and what's funny, I don't know if you have time, but when I moved back, because I moved back from Venezuela, I moved to Eugene, I moved to Portland, but then I found myself as a single mother, and I wanted to raise my son back in Lebanon. That's where my mom was. My support was back here, so I came back here. And one day, somebody was hiring a Walmart. I'd never heard of a Walmart before, and I was commuting from here to Toys R Us in Eugene. So I thought, well, I'll go get in line. I put on my best little skirt and I had my little organizer, and I got in line, and I ended up being interviewed by Kevin Comer, who was the store manager here. And he recognized my binder, and he goes, "You work for Toys R Us?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I do." And he goes, that's a P57. I don't remember what it was called. It was called something. And he goes, I brought those in. He was the guy who had recognized that everybody needed to be organized, and he was the reason that all department managers had to carry these organized. It was just a book, like a day timer kind of thing that eventually, we all had the day timers before we had the cell phones that ran our lives. And he goes, I recognize that. And he ended up hiring me to be the personnel manager. And he said, we're going to hire deaf people. And your first raise is going to be determined by how well you learn sign language. I'm like, well, shit.
Wow.
I don't know.
That wasn't on the job description.
So we sat down, all of the managers, and in a room, and we had 1 week to learn 1,000 words. So I would go home.
1 week.
1 week.
Wow.
Oh, that's a day. No, that's a day. That's a week. Oh my gosh.
See?
I'm so rusty. Yeah. If you watch me sign, you think I'm really good but unless you know sign, you're like, what is she even saying? The fact that I'm moving my fingers just looks impressive, but it's not. I'm really not very good at it, and I never was. But it was all relative, right? I was the best one of the ones of us, because I would go home, and if I didn't know how to say the word, I would not say it out loud until word. I would finger spell it so that my fingers would get nimble and used to spelling. So I'm like, okay. So that was just like the beginning of being asked to do things that I'm not qualified to do. But I don't even know why I got onto the Walmart story, but
when you were going from Eugene, you were working Toys R Us, and then
coming back to Lebanon. Oh, so I didn't know what a Walmart was.
You didn't know what a Walmart was.
I'm old. You got to hang with me here. Thank you. So I didn't know what a Walmart was. Lebanon actually was the first Walmart in Oregon.
Is that true?
And yeah, it was Lebanon and Klamath Falls opened simultaneously, but our guy was really competitive, and he wanted to be the first one, so he opened at midnight and made a sale
A-type.
right at midnight, so that we're Lebanon first one in Oregon, and by that time Lebanon was very broken. Lebanon was destitute. Businesses were closing. And then they were like, oh, Walmart's going to kill the rest of our businesses. And the opposite kind of happened. People from surrounding areas started coming to Lebanon to do their shopping instead of going to Albany to do their shopping. And since I'm going to stop here, I'm going to go to Ricky's Sporting Goods, or I'm going to go to some of the other shops in town. And so it was kind of counterintuitive, but that was when I began to get involved in the business community of Lebanon, and really have seen a lot of changes since then. But so I think Lebanon's future is, by the time we were attracting the Lowe's distribution center, the veterans home, I think Lebanon's future is very bright in that we have leadership that really wants a certain amount of growth, not an outrageous amount of growth. But I think people are like, well, we don't want to be in Albany, we don't want to be Corvallis, we don't want to be any of these big cities. And Oregon has urban growth boundaries that are very difficult to expand. So we have an urban growth boundary which limits us. We will always be a small community-ish. So there's only so much we're going to grow. And I think even if we maxed out that urban growth boundary, it would still be a size that I love. It's very bikeable. We've got great trails. We have so many like natural resource assets, and then we just have good people assets.
Yeah, I always say it's growing up and not being a good student in the public schools in New York. We always had that utilitarian calendar that had the nature scenes on it, and I remember like, man, I just want to jump in. Now I live in it.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's really like that, and but even more so the people. I guess the last thing I wanted to ask you is, okay, so
you said the last one was the last one.
I know, but
all right,
stop being so interesting.
One more.
If you just stop being so interesting.
Okay, I'll make this very boring.
Yeah, the dog's even into it right now, even more. He had to be restrained. Did you see that? Okay, so one of your many gifts in your leadership skill set is fostering community, right? Besides, I'm not just talking about business. So what would you say to someone who's particularly, coming to Lebanon, how to get involved in community, or maybe someone, it doesn't have to be Lebanon. Like what would you encourage for people that maybe or moving to a new area and how to get involved in some kind of community.
Yes. This is going to seem very self-serving because I would say get involved in your Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah. I agree.
And get involved, like it's not that much if you're just an individual. We have a lot of individual members, but I think that's a really good way to start when you go into a community to get connected with, to figure out, what's the flow, who's important, who's making things happen, what kinds of things are you interested in, and then you can kind of insert yourself in that way. We're particularly really good at connecting nonprofits. So if you're a person and you like to volunteer, really it could be just maybe not even joining, but coming. I've encouraged people to come and sit with myself and Mary, who our office manager, and my sister, who just come and sit and talk to us and tell me a little bit about what you are interested in. Like I want to volunteer. Okay, tons of opportunities to volunteer. Who do you want to connect with? And maybe what you want is just like a part-time job, answering phones at the animal shelter, or maybe you homelessness is your kind of like your button and your fire. What is it that ignites you? And we can help connect that. And chambers have the 3 C's. Chambers are convene, catalyst, connect. And those are the 3 C's of chamber. And connecting, I think, is probably my only real skill. And like listening to you, and Rafael might say something to me one day, and his hobby is drones. And the next day I might be talking to a real estate agent who says, I really could use a drone guy. I'm not getting good footage. Like, oh my gosh, you have to meet so-and-so. You're very good at this as well. But that connecting is probably connecting people. I get a text constantly like, Rebecca, I gotta get my hair colored. Where am I gonna go? Like, or I need a plumber. Who do I call? That's what we do. So I think if you're new to a community and you want to at least taste the flavor of that community, maybe even if you're thinking about moving there, go to a couple of meetings, talk to your Chamber of Commerce, and get what the flavor of the community is before you kind of see where to best insert yourself. Was that boring enough?
Not boring. I felt it was helpful. I don't know. Is he snoring?
Yeah. Not yet. Not yet.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
that was amazing. No, it's. I think it just weaves into the entire ethos of this podcast, which is we're connecting to each other, connecting to members of the community, and understanding each other at a deeper level. And I think, again, you follow the business, you follow where everything is going, and it leads you to chambers of commerce. And I think that's very well said. And I think, moving forward, one thing I would love to kind of connect with you on is this medical school is so embedded into the fabric of this community now. And there are constantly things that are going on, projects, clubs that, driven medical students are putting together projects for. And I just can totally imagine how you in the Chamber of Commerce might have resources that we completely miss on a daily basis. So moving forward, the next steps that I have for myself are connecting with you and opening up that bridge to the medical school. And, it's something that I really would be looking forward to working with you on.
The Western University of Health Sciences is really fabulous about connecting or getting their students plugged in to the community. So yeah, we're always open to helping make that connection with the students. They're so valuable, and they're so good at picking students. I mean, maybe not in your case.
Yeah,
whatever.
I think they let the wrong Rafa in.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I knew a Rafael once. Don't make me tell you about him.
Hopefully not in Venezuela.
It was in Venezuela.
Oh, dear.
Oh, no.
But I don't want to talk about that. I'm not talking about him or
Rebecca.
Orlando. Those two, just shut up about it.
If you're listening out there, we love you too.
Yeah. No. Do not call me. We're done. But No, they but they do a really good job of attracting, and kind of the way they filter students is in a way that they get just really like high energy, good vibe, like people that genuinely care. I've yet to meet a student that was an Eeyore or a Debbie Downer or, just like, oh, no, I don't be there. And that's the second time I've said Eeyore, because that's one of my very favorite things when somebody's like, well, I was leaving work. Well, I guess we'll just be here working. And I'm like,
Winnie the Pooh reference, in case you didn't
Eeyore, and that's like, well, the other, when somebody whines at work, it's like, oh, why am I such a misfit? You can't fire me. I quit. And that makes people say, oh, God, I am acting like a victim. Maybe I victim shame. That's what I do. So.
Well, we tackled it all today, I think. We talked about the art of conversation, the power of story. We talked about the impact on community and being able to inspire others to do amazing things beyond what they can even imagine doing. And we can't thank you for that. And I love it. Again, one of the words that we've been kicking around as we've kind of finding our rhythm here, which will take a little bit for Pivot itself. But it's being able to have like people that come on, but it's uncurated, in a way that it's real. And we're hoping that not only, again, this is, again, our primary target that we want to encourage are the people right here in this town. But we're really hoping also that extends out to people who knows where, that somehow they're just like, they need an encouragement, and that'll propel them to go out, build those relationships, get around, volunteer. You made some great points about that.
Don't let this air in Venezuela. Actually, I'm pretty sure none of those people are still in Venezuela.
No, it's okay. I don't think our reach goes to New Jersey. As I say.
Oh,
anyway.
Okay. All right.
You got that one, huh? Well, anyway, listen, you guys, this was a real treat today, and I'm humbled by the people around me. You're only as good as the people around you, and I was once told that, surround yourself with people more brilliant and talented, and I did that 100% today. So I can't thank you enough, Rebecca, R to the G. I'll just leave it at that. And all you do for this community humbly, and don't take any glory for it. I really appreciate your humility, but also, for us to be here, you're a big part of us to be here and to be in this amazing community of people and to be able to participating and have a business. Who gets to do that, right?
I know.
Yeah.
Wow, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming down with your basket. Thank you for tuning into Pivot. Hope it left you inspired, motivated, and reminded that redemption is always within reach, no matter how far you've spun out when life happens.